and welcome in everyone to this edition of the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. Glad to be here on what is this holiday weekend. Very special, meaningful time for everyone. Good show lined up, JDoc, on the Labor and Energy Show. Two great guests. You get to go one-on-one with two great guests as part of the Labor and Energy Show today.
Yeah, Joe, and it is. This is part of our end of the year specials. And like you said, it's a holiday weekend. Very festive time of year, and I'm ecstatic to have on the program Peter Holran, who is the Director of Public Relations U.S. at Enbridge Energy, also a member of our Energy Education and Awareness Board of Directors, and of course Adam Gattuso, who is also a member of our Energy Education and Awareness Board of Directors from Monroe Energy. Both are individuals that do a phenomenal job for their respective organizations, but also today we're going to talk about not only some issues and stuff like that, but talk about how that them and their companies impact our communities, our way of life even, and of course at this festive time of year, which we're very fortunate to have a festive time of year. It can be difficult for others. And so these individuals make a difference in so many different ways, and I'm ecstatic to have them on the broadcast.
Reminder to our listening audience, you can go to Apple or Spotify, search the Labor and Energy Show, download this edition or this version, this podcast edition, or any of the previous shows on the or wherever you get your podcast. It's the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. We'll take a short break. We'll get started with JDoc on the other side. Back in a moment.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Pond Lehocky doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
The best way to describe Anthony, David, and Jan are that they're my brothers. I met Anthony at LA Fitness because I noticed that he had a Teamster's bag and his dad was a Teamster leader.
I'm a third-generation son of labor. My grandmother worked in a factory. My mother and father were both Teamster members. I don't think there's a trade that I don't have a family member in.
What's so big for me coming from a union background is what affects one member affects the entire membership.
A lot of people can relate to the issues that individuals deal with. We pride ourselves on empathy.
The big value that's always instilled in you if you grow up in a union household is the importance of brotherhood. People that lean on each other, that rely on each other.
When we were building this business, having that background and knowing what matters most to the union members is really what we use to drive and build out Retiree First.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Labor and Energy Show on the Jacob Media Network. I'm ecstatic to bring into the program Peter Holran, Director of Government Relations, U.S. at Enbridge Energy. Peter, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, JDoc. Thanks for having me on today.
It's a pleasure. This is a part of our end of the year specials, and Peter's a part of our Energy Education and Awareness Initiative, and there's so much to talk about. And Peter, so this is a spotlight segment on Enbridge and the great things Enbridge does that support our everyday lives, okay, our way of life here in our country. And I'd like to educate our listeners in a sense from in layman's terms, so they understand the impacts, the importance, and all those good things. So if you would, okay, please tell our listeners a little bit about Enbridge. Enbridge is a household name in the industry, but if you would give our listeners a brief overview of what Enbridge is and what Enbridge does and the magnitude of Enbridge.
Yeah, no, happy to. And again, great to be on the program and to talk about great important issues. But from an Enbridge perspective, we are North America's leading energy transportation company. And so we are moving crude oil, natural gas liquids that are made into propane and other chemicals, etc., every day throughout the United States. But we're also in the energy generation business as well. We have about $8 billion worth of renewable energy under management today across North America and also over in Europe, off the coast of France and Germany and England, and some wind energy. And so we are a major provider of energy to a lot of communities, whether it's in the 40 states across the United States or 7 provinces across Canada. We are providing energy that is used every day in aviation fuel, diesel fuel, gasoline, to heat homes and businesses, and to run our industries.
And so, and you mentioned renewables. So, you're heavily involved, obviously, in our traditional energy, but our renewables. So people might stereotype and think, well, Enbridge is about pipelines exclusively, but you're in almost every area of energy.
Yeah, we are. I mean, yeah, we're moving about 25% of all the crude oil that moves across North America, and we move 25% of all the natural gas. That's our core business. But over the last 20 years, we have also built out solar, wind, geothermal, hydroelectric, many other types of energy generation for communities. And lately, you're looking at the low carbon energy solutions. One of the things we're most proud of for the Philadelphia area is being part of the Mach 2 hydrogen hub that was just announced and awarded by the U.S. government, the Department of Energy. Enbridge is already working and blending hydrogen into our gas streams in Ontario, Canada, where we have a gas distribution company, one of the largest in North America. We're looking to bring that same know-how and technology to the Philadelphia region, to the United States, and build out that line of business as well.
One of the things people don't realize, and I think it's a narrative that has, in a sense, people have been in a sense misguided. That a lot of our, and in fact, not only a lot of our, but almost every one of our traditional energy companies are at the forefront of our lowering emissions. Okay, our environment and our commitment to our environment. Talk about that and what a priority it is to Enbridge. Okay, because people don't, when we talk, and we're going to get into, some of the projects, but it's just not something that people, in a sense, are educated on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's a great point, Joe. And, one of our jobs is to make sure people know more about energy. A lot of people just think you turn the light switch on the wall and the lights come on, and you go to the gas station and there's always going to be gasoline. I'm old enough to remember going with my father to the gas station in the 1970s when there wasn't gas every day. And, odd even license plate. You tell that to a millennial and they have no idea what you're talking about. You and I understand what that means. And
we definitely do. No question.
Yeah. And so, our job in this industry is to make sure that the energy continues to flow. We need energy every day. Our manufacturers, our small businesses, our homes, my mother-in-law lives right there outside Philadelphia, and she needs her energy to keep her house warm during these winter months. So that's our job right now. But then we also have to look to the future. Every energy company, including Enbridge, is committed to lowering emissions. If we don't do that, we're not going to address the climate changes that are taking place. We need to address that. Enbridge has very firm commitments and goals for our emissions reductions, 35% of our own emissions by the end of this decade. And like many companies, we have a goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2050. That's going to be, there's a lot of work that has to get done to get there. A lot of transition, a lot of technology that we have to develop and bring on board. And we're working with our industry partners, we're working with our labor partners, we're working with the governments across the globe to find those solutions. But in the meantime, we need to bring that core energy that we use today to markets at a lower emissions rate. So we're working on capturing carbon. That is one thing that we can do today that helps lower emissions. We can actually reduce methane emissions from our pipeline pipelines, and we're working on that every day to make that technology better. And as we reduce emissions, as we find new solutions like hydrogen that we can blend into our gas streams, which will lower emissions, we will continue to meet the challenges that have been set out by the world governments, that we must reduce emissions, we must transition to new fuels, but it doesn't happen overnight. So every little bit helps.
Well, you said it. We take for granted that you're just going to be able to flip the switch, okay, turn the dial, and we're going to have light, we're going to have heat, we're going to turn the air conditioning on. And we've been fortunate enough, okay, throughout our recent lifetimes. You mentioned back in the 70s. I remember those lines in the cars, and it was crazy. Okay, yes. One of the things that is difficult is and it's so important, the importance of working together. Okay, with companies like Enbridge. Okay, you talk about our renewables, our political, our policymakers, and labor. To all be working in the same direction. We have such great resources here in North America. Okay, and one of the things people don't understand is our standards here in the United States and in Canada are so much higher than there are overseas. Yet we're often shutting ourselves down, and we're going to be importing the same products. Okay, and our standards here and the leadership we have is so important. And so the lives that Enbridge impacts on a daily basis across the country. You mentioned 25%. Okay, you're delivering 25% of the resources. I mean, I don't know if there's statistics, but let's talk about on a daily basis the households and the lives that your resources at Enbridge impacts on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's literally tens of millions of people across New England, the Mid-Atlantic, down across the southern states with our gas distribution. Our crude oil is going to refineries across the Midwest, up into eastern Canada, but also down to the Gulf Coast where it's being refined into various products and used. So we're touching lives across the United States. Every day, and that's fuel that energy that everybody depends on. That's coming to us. What we need to really work on is, as we work and live in these communities, is getting out. And Enbridge is fully committed, especially this time of year, Joe. We want to make sure that people understand that we care about the communities that we work in, that we live in. We got 16,000 employees across the United States and in Europe. And they are not just employees; they actually live in the communities where we work. If we have pipelines that run through, like in Pennsylvania, we have offices across Pennsylvania where we have pipeline workers. We have major offices in the Boston area, in Houston, and in the Chicagoland area, up into Minnesota, out into the Minot, North Dakota. So we're across this great country in all the various communities, and we want to make certain not only that we are reaching out and educating, but that we are part of those communities, and people understand that we use the energy that we produce. We live and work and play in the communities where we have assets, and we have to lift everybody up at the same time.
No question about it. And when you talk about the communities and the lives that are impacted on a daily basis of a massive magnitude, I didn't even mention the workforce. Okay, and I mean you talk about 16,000 employees. Okay, so it's ingrained in our way of life. Okay, and I'd like to touch on pipelines. Okay. Yep. Because they're so important, and I kind of break it down a little bit, Peter, in like that when I'm talking to somebody, okay, about the need and the importance of pipelines. This is maybe in layman's terms, but I'll say, like, pipelines, they help support our way of life. They're like the veins that carry the blood in our body. Without them, we're relying on other areas of transportation, trains, trucks. And we have awesome employees and awesome workers doing all those things, but the pipelines are incredibly efficient, and there's a massive need for them. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's been shown time over time that pipelines are the safest, most efficient, most affordable way to move energy. And so, the basic fact is that if you look at crude oil, we have an abundance of crude oil here in North America. A lot of it is up in Western Canada, some in Western United States, down in the Texas, New Mexico, Permian area. But that's not where the energy needs are. The energy needs are in the big cities. And so we have to move the energy from where it's produced to the refineries and then into the homes and businesses that use that energy. And it's no different with natural gas. Yeah, Pennsylvania is blessed to have huge natural gas deposits out in the Marcellus and Utica formation. But you still have to get it to the people that need it. And so pipelines are the safest, most efficient, and most affordable way to do that. And that's something that we don't take lightly. We work on our pipelines every single day of the year, the 365 days. We are monitoring those pipelines. We are upgrading where we need to. We're making sure that we keep our communities safe. But more importantly, especially this time of year, Joe, it's getting cold out there, and we need to make sure that that gas gets to the plants that are pushing it to the houses and making sure that people have natural gas to heat their homes and run their electric systems, etc. Because without that, it gets to be very cold in the Northeast, as we all know.
Oh yeah, and you touch on safety. Okay, the priority for safety. Okay, we deal with a lot of stuff. It's almost like, look, I mean, we all care about the environment. We care about our communities. We live in the communities around the facilities. We just had a conversation with Adam Gattuso of Monroe, talking about being a part of the community and having that dialogue. And so we nobody takes it lightly under any circumstance. Okay, but the priority for safety, okay, when it comes to our pipelines, is priority number one.
Yes.
I can't state that enough. Talk about, when you're talking to a community, when you're doing a replacement project, okay? The stressing of that priority.
Well, two things, Joe, and I think you talk to any energy company, and they're probably very similar to Enbridge. Well, we start every day, every meeting with a safety moment. And this is something that we brought from the field, from our workers out on the pipelines in the field to the offices and across our system, to say that every single minute of every single day, you have to think about safety. And if you're not thinking about it, then you got an opportunity that something could go wrong. And so we have very strict safety protocols. We have a very strict safety culture that is built from the minute you walk into the company until maybe you become CEO. You are learning about the safety culture, and that's for two reasons. One, every man and woman that works in our company, every man and woman that works in our industry deserves to come to work, have a safe environment to work in, and go home to their families. Right. And that is something we need to stress every day. But also, those communities that we entrust, they entrust us with our assets, and we ask for that permission. We get our right-of-ways, we get our easements, we go through and we work with communities to say, we want to build this pipeline in your community. Part of that is we have to say to them, you have to trust us that we know what we're doing. And the only way you earn trust is to demonstrate it. And so we go out, if we're doing any kind of maintenance project, even if we're just doing upgrades of valves or the replacement of a section of pipe, we have a very aggressive outreach program with not only the community leaders and the elected officials, but we will have community meetings and we will answer questions. And not, there's people, Joe, you and I know this, there are people that don't like what we do, maybe have a different view of the world. They're entitled to that. They're also entitled to have their say. And so we listen. And sometimes we learn things and better ways of doing things. But most importantly, we want to be as transparent as possible so they understand exactly what we're doing. And if we have to shut down a road to do some maintenance work, we got to tell the community why. That's a major disruption to them. And so we try to plan around their lives as well. And it's part of who we have to be, who Enbridge is. But also, I think who the industry is now is that we have to be much more transparent. We have to be much more upfront with the community on what we're doing. And we work on that every single day. That's part of my job. That's part of my team's job, is to be part of that community and to understand.
And it's part of our energy education and awareness initiative, educating the public on, what we call common sense and energy. Okay. Yeah. And one of the things that we try to do is obviously translate the message, but also bring people into the process. One of the things so these projects take a lot to get off the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. And permitting reform is something that we've talked about in the past. Okay. And the priority now obviously the Congress's recent debt ceiling bill, has a number of provisions when it comes to permitting reform. But whether it's a pipeline or even if it's mining for critical minerals, okay, right now we're dependent for a lot of our computer products. You talk about electric vehicles. The batteries are comprised of critical minerals. They're being mined in the Congo, okay, and this is not a secret. Often with using child labor and unbelievable ways of doing it. We can't even kind of take that work back if we can't get the permits to mine for those critical minerals. Okay, yeah. Talk about how permitting reform impacts your industry. We only have a couple minutes, but the importance of being able to do, being able to get these projects off the ground and maintain them when there's a replacement project.
Yeah, so everything needs to be permitted. We have state, local, federal permits that need to be obtained to lay a pipeline. And we work very closely with our regulators, with our those agencies that actually give us the permits. And the process is there to make certain that we have thought of everything that we can think of and that we understand what the local communities and how important maybe that local stream is. And is it better to do a horizontal directional drill under the stream rather than just putting the pipeline in the bottom of the stream? And that's what the permitted process is all about, is we put out our best case. We understand, what we think is the best after we've done probably a couple years of studies of the right of way and the route that we want to build on. The community comes back and says, here's what our concerns are. And then we work together to try to find a way that the government can say, yes, you can go ahead and build this. What the permitting reform has started to do, and I think we still need a phase 2 and we still maybe need a phase 3 to get this right, is we started to cut the time down, because there are individuals and organizations out there that don't want to see any more linear infrastructure, any energy infrastructure built. And they are just trying to delay the process. And all that does is it costs money, it costs time, and it actually, in some cases, makes the projects less safe, less efficient, less environmentally, more environmentally impactful, because time is not always our friend. We can do things very efficiently, very quickly, and then also very environmentally friendly. But once things change, then we have to go back and rework everything. So we like the permitting reforms that have been put in place. We're going to continue to work with Congress and our elected officials for more permitting reforms, all for the purpose. We're not looking for shortcuts. We want to make sure that the projects get good environmental reviews, that the communities are heard, and that at the end of the day, we are building a project that, 1, delivers the energy that is needed, and 2, is the least environmentally impact project that can be built.
And so, Peter, we're coming to the end of the segment, and I really appreciate, obviously, your time and what you do on a daily basis to support our way of life. I know it's the holiday time, and Enbridge has a really active community giving program throughout the year. Okay, and that's, I love that, because it's not just about the holiday season, but you encourage, you provide grants to first responders and communities, which operate to the Fuel Futures program, which also it encourages our employees to volunteer, your employees to volunteer and give back to the communities. Just touch on that for about 20 seconds and the importance of obviously giving back to the community and all on an all year long process.
Yeah, no, it's very important. It's part of our culture, Joe. And we have the 2 main programs. One, you mentioned the Safe Communities grants. So if there are first responders along our rights of way that need help with equipment and other resources to do their jobs, we have grants available to them because they're a partner with us, right? We hope we never have to work with them, but we have to train with them and we have to be a partner with them. And we want to make sure that these communities have the resources. A lot of small communities in Pennsylvania. I know I grew up in one out towards Lancaster. They're all volunteer fire departments out there, and they don't have big budgets. And so we can help out there with some of our grants. But we also have a program called Fueling Futures, where every single one of our employees is encouraged to not only give in their community, but to volunteer. And the company will match dollar amounts for the volunteer hours. They will match contributions that are made by individuals. And this is to say, again, we live and work in a community. We need to be part of those communities, and we encourage every single one of our employees every day of the year to be part of that community and to give whatever they can.
Peter Holran, Director of Government Relations U.S. at Enbridge Energy, thank you so much for joining us on the Labor and Energy Show, and have a fantastic holiday season.
You too, Joe. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas in a moment.
My name is Eleanor Northaft. My husband was in the union, Local 282. And as I'm getting older, I'd like somebody to fight for me. So I called up Retiree First.
Hi.
And I got Brooke.
So nice to meet you. I'm Brooke. I'm an advocate at Retiree First. I've been working with Eleanor for 3 years. She was one of my first calls. I helped her with transportation to her doctors, getting her glasses reimbursed.
Oh, they are pretty fancy.
I'm basically just answering any questions she has.
And I always have a lot of questions.
Not too many.
I have a friend there. I love it because I can depend on her to help me out in any situation.
Oh, I'm excited.
She always comes through for me.
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch action news live.
And the big story on Action News.
Plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on, always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey here on the Jacob Media Network. Ecstatic to bring into the program Adam Gattuso, Monroe Energy Government Affairs leader and communications leader. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, JDoc. Great to be here today.
It's great to have you, and certainly Adam's also a member of our Energy Education and Awareness Initiative Board of Directors. So much going on. If you would, Adam, a little for our audience, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do at Monroe, and of course, a little bit about Monroe Energy.
Oh, yeah, great. And thanks again for doing what you all do. I think it's really important to bring these energy issues to the forefront and labor issues to the forefront. So here at Monroe Energy, I head all the government affairs, whether it's state or local or federal government affairs. Also focus a lot on our community engagement activities because we really believe that, our commitment to the community extends far beyond our fence line. It's very important to who we are, a core value for us. Also oversee the communication work here at the refinery, and then I do a lot of special project work here at the refinery as well. Just a little bit of an overview on who Monroe Energy is. I guess maybe I'll start back kind of at the very beginning. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Delta Airlines. Back in 2010 timeframe, Delta was looking for an innovative way to get a hold of their largest expense, and at the time, it was jet fuel. They were the second largest consumer of jet fuel in the world. The first is the United States military, so large consumer of jet fuel. And, at the time, a lot of airlines were trying to hedge their bets on fuel prices through really just paper hedging. Well, that's great and everything, but you can't fly a plane with paper. So they had this innovative strategy of what would happen if we bought an oil refinery to actually refine physical jet fuel for ourselves, right? For our parent company. So at the time in Pennsylvania, there were 3 refineries that unfortunately announced closure all at the same time. This would have been 2011. So one in Philadelphia, one in Marcus Hook, and one in Trainer, where I stand today. And just for historical perspective, refining has been happening on this property since the very early 1900s. So it's kind of it's really a historic facility. Many generations have worked here, and they continue to do so today. So we have about 515 employees here at the refinery. We fulfill roughly 70% of our parent company's jet fuel needs on a daily basis. We process about 200,000 barrels of crude oil per day. And when Monroe Energy purchased this refinery, we also have our own wholly owned subsidiary, which is called MIPC, which is about 51 miles of pipeline. So we're able to get fuel product through our pipeline network and into other pipeline networks to get product up to the New York Harbor, or whether it's out to Western Pennsylvania or even up into New York State.
It's interesting because we have Peter Holran coming on from Enbridge. You mentioned obviously the pipelines. A lot of what we do, you and I in our organization, is educating the public, okay, on a daily basis on what we call common sense in energy, right? I mean, a lot of what Monroe does, helps to support our way of life, okay, our everyday way of life. And so when you talk about the many different facets that Monroe touches, okay, the workforce, okay, you guys are, when you talk about the community, impact in the community, okay, one of the things that you do on a, you do when you talk about the workers, and you just completed a large scale turnaround, okay, and there was a ton of workers involved in that, okay. Talk about that, because it impacts the community, the surrounding businesses, but also over 2,000 members of our Philadelphia building trades. Okay, so when Monroe is doing a project, or if there's a turnaround, so many lives are impacted. Not to mention, the fuels that is refined.
No, absolutely. That's a great point. And I think I'll just take a half a step back to my days when I was actually in the governor's office when the 3 refineries announced closure. Really, really tough time. I remember there was a study done by the Pennsylvania Department of Labor, and what they found was that for every lost refining job, 18.3 people in the local community southeastern PA region would lose their job, 22 across the state, and 61 across the nation. So when you talk about that job multiplier effect, whether it's the trades, whether it's your local store, and even, we saw it firsthand how much the school districts and municipalities would suffer, right? Because you don't have that economic infusion. But as it pertains to the turnaround, so for everyone's benefit, if you don't know what a turnaround is, think of it as a major tune-up of your car's engine and other maintenance that you would do. Like on an everyday basis, you put gas and you put oil and you check the fluids. But every once in a while, you need to take it into the shop and kind of get a major maintenance done. That's very similar to what happens here at the refinery. If you think about this facility runs 24/7, 365. Every pipe, or most pipes, most vessels, most units, most motors are outside, right? So they're subjected to the heat, the cold, the rain, the snow. So the equipment, we do regular maintenance to make sure we're reliable and safe all throughout the years. But every once in a while, you need to take the facility offline, or the majority of it offline, to conduct not only the major maintenance that you need to do, but also to maybe tie in projects that you were unable to tie in when the facility is actually running. So you had mentioned, that we utilized the high skilled workers of the Philadelphia building trades. I'm proud to say, up to 2,000 members of the building trades were in this plant for about 2 months. 7 days a week. So it really became a small city. So when you look at that job multiplier effect, that's what we're really talking about, how much it's not just the folks that work here on a daily basis, but it's everybody outside this organization that helps support the organization to keep it going. And just one other point of note, I looked this morning because I was doing some work, and it was actually 10 different disciplines of the Philadelphia building trades that were in here. So a lot of diversity in the work that was done. So
it's interesting because I'm familiar with the turnarounds, the shutdowns, and a lot of the union workers, the union leaders. I mean, they depend on them and they look forward to it. It's a major, shot of work that their members can look forward to. We depend on those for man hours. Okay, the tax base. I mean, it impacts so many areas of our city and our citizens, and of course our workforce. But talk about coordinating that project. Okay, what does it take to, it's a 2,000 member. You got different trades, like you said, 10 different trades. I've been a part of them, and let me tell you, it's like run like a military operation. Talk about the preparations from a management standpoint, not the actual nuts and bolts, but how long does it take you to prepare for that type of situation?
No, you're absolutely right. And like I said before, this one facility, it's 350 roughly acres. It became like a small city within the boroughs, right? So it's not only, directing traffic to make sure you don't disrupt the citizens that live in these boroughs, right? But coordinating all that work takes so much time and planning. This turnaround is actually 3 years in the making. When you think about it, a lot of the things that we do during a turnaround, you can't just go to your local hardware store, buy a part, right? I mean, a lot of these things that we need are very long lead time. So it may be a motor that has a 52-week lead time, right? So we actually had team members that their sole job was to focus on the planning and the execution of roughly a 2-month project. And that started happening over 3 years ago to make sure that the work was getting done that needed to get done, that when this crane was done in this location, that the crane moved to another location to do the other critical lifts. It really becomes a well choreographed play, and you need folks that are solely focused on making sure that you could do it successfully. And when I mean successfully, it's not just about trying to be on time and on budget, but most importantly, doing it safely.
It's interesting because when you talk about that type of project, the surrounding communities, okay, they also depend on that infusion of business. Certainly, one of the things that people don't understand, I think clearly, is how engaged the communities are in the facilities, okay, and how, like you mentioned, one big part of what you do is the community outreach, the community communications. Talk about that and the importance of that relationship, number one, but number two, on how much those turnarounds benefit the communities and how much they're aware of what's going on.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, you talk about, the job aspect. These are, I think it's fair to say that these are all the jobs that our elected officials want to create, right? They're family sustaining jobs that are really, in my mind, life-changing. They provide life-changing opportunities for folks that not only work here, work in the trades, and that kind of branches out. So, working with the community, I guess I'll start there, is a core value for Monroe. That was very apparent from the day that I stepped foot in here. We believe that our commitment to the community extends far beyond our fence line. We never wanted to be seen as that facility behind the barbed wire fence, right? So we don't just sit in here. We get out in the community. We become part of the community. I think our operating philosophy is, if you lived right across the street, we don't have a 30-acre buffer beyond our fence line. Our neighbors are literally across Post Road. How would you want to be treated? So whether it's a project that we're doing at the facility, does it create a noise? Does it create a traffic congestion issue? Does it create, some other burden? Being part of the community, communicating those things, getting the feedback of what's important to a community member, really, really important to us. So we do a lot of that by participating in, whether it's borough council meetings or community events, but also doing things that I think maybe would be a little bit out of the ordinary for some, which is we've had school trips in here where we have like an education day where young students can come in. We provide a company overview. We'll give a tour of the plant. And then at the end, we'll have, let's say it's a STEM focused class. We'll have engineers and folks from our lab, chemists that could come in and talk about career opportunities to show that we really are trying to make sure that our positive impact is not just the products that we create, but also the positive impact that we have externally.
And talk about the safety and the high environmental standards that Monroe, deals with on a daily basis and meets them, and those type of priorities, which also are community focused, obviously worker focused and environmental focused. We have the highest environmental standards, in the world. Okay, and on our safety is a top priority to our workforce and the community. Touch on that.
Yeah, great question. Every meeting around here starts off with a safety moment, right? And I said before that, you want your turnaround or any project to be on time or on budget, but the real critical component is, did you do it safely? And it's not just for the folks here; it's safety of our community as well. So it's vitally important to us. Maybe I could touch on there was a couple actually projects you said on, like, in the environmental side. There was a couple projects that we did in this turnaround that may be a little different than our previous turnaround that actually have pretty interesting environmental focuses on it. One, we actually installed our second of 3 large cooling water towers. And why that's important is, when we first got here, the system that we had here was called the once-through cooling water. So we would draw in roughly 100 million gallons a day. And I did say that, right? It's actually 100 million gallons a day of non-contact cooling water to cool the plant. So it would come in the plant, it would circulate through pipes, which is separated from everything else. So that's why it's non-contact, cool the plant, and then go back out. After the installation of our second and in a couple of years, our third, we will reduce our water intake out of the Delaware River by 95%. So we will go from 100 million gallons a day of river water down to just 5. And that's viewed by DEP and EPA as the best available technology. Another interesting project that we did here that was a little bit different than other turnarounds, we decided to change out a couple of our very high horsepower motors that drive a couple of our units here from steam to high efficiency electric. And I didn't really understand it in the beginning. I say, well, why does that really make that much of a difference? If you think about it, you need a lot of energy to heat up water to turn it into steam. And then that steam has to travel literally hundreds of miles of pipe throughout our refinery. So you use a lot of energy to keep that intensity up. And when you switch to the high efficiency electric driven pumps, our boilers don't need to fire as hard. Therefore, our emissions become lower. So we're trying to find ways to do things that we're not obligated to do, but it's the right thing to do for our community and the region, the environment.
Absolutely. And so, it's the holiday season. Okay. And, obviously, talk about what Monroe does, the team at Monroe, to do, special things out in the community.
Well, we have a super dedicated team here that just is, it's a very charitable, giving, helping community that walks through these gates every day. So I think something really special that we've been doing, I've been here almost 11 years now and been done every single year since I've been here, is that we partner with our trainer police department, who knows where the greatest needs are within the community. And we do an adopt a child program. So actually yesterday we just dropped off, all the gifts that we had for the roughly 70 kids right here in the trainer community that are going through a rough time. So it's a way for our team members to really give back. It's really meaningful to them because we are all blessed to have the opportunities we do. And we realize that some others don't have that same opportunity. And it also helps foster, I think, a stronger relationship between our public servants and the police force with the community as a whole. So I think it's a great all-around project.
And a lot of the members of the community are actually work at the plant. So in other words, it's ingrained in the communities. And when, especially holiday seasons right now, you're not only obviously, community outreach and all those things, but the community is actually a part of what you're doing. And so it's almost, in a sense, for a lot of people, Okay, you do have the 2,000. So when you talk about the 2,000 building trades members coming in, we have a large jurisdiction here in the region. So a lot of the workers live in the communities. But the fact of the matter is, it can be, in a sense, like a family type situation with the workforce being a part of the surrounding community.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have second, third generation refinery workers here. A lot of our members of our team, I could say specifically from our emergency response team here at the plant, a lot of the members that volunteer or are on that team are also fire chiefs in their local community. So they bring the expertise, the skill sets that they have here at the plant, they bring it to the local community. We do our best to make sure that we have job openings, that we make everybody aware of what's out there. And our hope is that, we can continue to hire folks from the local community. I think it's really vitally important for businesses as a whole to partner, right? I mean, it's you need to do your business and conduct your core business effectively and efficiently, but there's more to it. And that couldn't happen here without, our leadership really supporting the things that we do. So it's been a great experience.
And I heard you, as we were prepping for the show, Krausey's coached. Krausey is committed to, he does a coat drive for kids in need, around the Delaware Valley. And it's really amazing because Joe actually goes out into the community in the middle of the night. He's done sleeping bags. He's done, you guys have actually, supported that, which is something that's really near and dear to us. The Philadelphia Building Trades gets involved because the rubber hits the road right there. I mean, people are obviously there are people that are challenged, and it's a very difficult thing. But you guys are involved in that project, and talk about that and the fact that it makes a difference, especially now. It's kids getting and adults also getting who are maybe homeless, but maybe that they're financially challenged, making that direct difference to people who are in need.
No, it's really important. I mean, it's so meaningful. And I think one of the things that we try, it's about reflecting on the blessings that you have. And I think everybody here understands the opportunities we have, and not everybody else has those opportunities. So when you're able to give back, when you're able to partner with your community, when you're able to help somebody that may be at a very low point in their personal life, it's so meaningful to be able to do. It's not about seeking credit. There are so many things that we do here that we don't want the credit for. It's just the right thing to do. So that's what's been so meaningful for me to oversee a lot of our charitable endeavors. It's because our CEO, our COO, our Delta leadership just says, go out there, do the right thing, make the most impact you can have positively on the community. And they give us the freedom to go out and do that. So very meaningful for us.
Adam Gattuso, Monroe Energy, and obviously we're ecstatic to have you a part of our energy education and awareness board. Thank you for what you do and what Monroe does for our workforce, but also for our communities. And I want to wish you and everybody at Monroe a great holiday season. We appreciate everything you do, my friend.
Thank you. Likewise. Great to be here.
Fantastic. We'll have more from the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey in just a minute.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Pond Lehocky doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
The best way to describe Anthony, David, and Jan are that they're my brothers. I met Anthony at LA Fitness because I noticed that he had a Teamster's bag, and his dad was a Teamster leader.
I'm a third generation son of labor. My grandmother worked in a factory. My mother and father were both Teamster members. I don't think there's a trade that I don't have a family member in.
What's so big for me coming from a union background is what affects one member affects the entire membership.
A lot of people can relate to the issues that individuals deal with. We pride ourselves on empathy.
The big value that's always instilled in you if you grow up in a union household is the importance of brotherhood, people that lean on each other, that rely on each other.
When we were building this business, having that background and knowing what matters most to the union members is really what we use to drive and build out Retiree First.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. Two good segments, JDoc. We only have about 60 seconds. I'll give you 45 of it just to put your recap and your spin on today's show.
Yeah, Joe, great show. Want to thank Peter Holran, Director of Government Relations at Enbridge US, for being our one of our guests on our program. He's just a fantastic individual who laid out how they make such a difference in our everyday lives. And of course, Adam Gattuso, who he's not only the communications leader and the government affairs leader at Monroe Energy, but also the head of their community relations. And so just a great example of the impact that our energy companies, our traditional energy companies have on the community and in our everyday lives. So on behalf of obviously everybody on the program, I want to thank Adam and Peter and of course, wish everybody a happy holiday season, including our union community.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. We thank all of our listeners and our viewers who have tuned in during 2023. On behalf of JDoc, I'm Joe Kraus. Happy holidays, everyone.